Hey, Coach.
I'm late. I'm gonna beat you to the punch. Hey, quickly, sliding scale.
Okay.
Is that the word? Is that the phrase you were looking for earlier? That you should be judged on a sliding scale based on age?
Oh, no. I think it was more of a, it's more of a, what's that term in math where you kind of weight something?
Variable?
Yeah, like a variable. You have a weighting system a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Not a sliding scale. But, I'll take that,
Fine,
too.
shoot me down.
Well, you shot me down pretty hard right before that, actually.
I didn't shoot you down, man. I've always got a plan. Always thinking up top.
Oh, he's throwing. So just to fill everybody in, I asked him what the odds are for the crushing iron war between me and CC, and he quickly threw out that my odds are 10-1.
Yeah. 10-1. Now, was that being coy? Was that being little Phil Jackson-ish? Was that being more Greg Popovich? Who knows? I guess we'll find out on race day.
Well, considering I already put money on myself,
that's right.
You can be whatever you want to be.
A smooth hunch. That's right.
And don't make me laugh right now. I'm actually in a bad mood. Oof.
Oh, really? What happened?
I've got 3 letters for you. LAB.
Ooh, did it have its way with you?
No, it always has its way with me because it's windy out there. Back again. It's the canceled airport that I ride in constantly. It's a 1.25 mile loop. It is perfect for cycling. There's hundreds of miles of greenway around this town. Hundreds.
Yeah.
Even in Shelby Park, there's probably 15. Including beautiful grass trails that dogs love. But people just seem to want to go out there with their dogs unleashed and walk right in the middle of the damn track. Or today, this couple was flying those silly kites. I don't even know what they are. And they're standing on one side of the road with the string going across the road flying the kite. And I'm riding under the string. Which at any moment out there, the wind could take that kite right to the ground.
Yeah, and you'd be decapitated.
Basically. On and on. I don't know. I
know. We'll take care of it at some point.
It's really, we're going to need a pick-me-up here.
Yeah, that's all right. Well, we have, today we asked our Crushing Iron closed Facebook group, kind of our Crushing Iron community forum. We figured we'd do a round 2 of 10 questions for Coach. And first off, don't forget to like our Crushing Iron Facebook page. Had a ton of new likes recently, which is awesome. That means we're getting the word out there, and you guys get to enjoy all of our nice complimentary content. And then if you want to be part of the conversation, you can look up Crushing Iron as well and ask to join our closed Facebook group.
Yeah.
So we don't really market it or announce it except for on this podcast. That way, we know the only people that are actually asking to be on it are people that listen to our podcast.
Yep. And the questions today will be from that group, correct?
Yeah. All the questions today were going to be from the group. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And if you do, just search Crushing Iron Group. That's how you find it. That's how you find the private group or the closed group or whatever. And we have some nice discussion in there. Some good people on a similar mission. That hopefully, and it hasn't so far. It's been really positive, good discussion. It's not your typical, triathlon message board or something.
Exactly. Thank God. And it never will be.
No, because we are.
We're flipping the shark if it ever happens.
Yeah, we are going to flip the shark.
Yeah, we're about to flip the shark right now.
Man, I feel a T-shirt coming. Go ahead.
What'd you say?
I do feel a T-shirt coming. Somebody mentioned that in the group, actually. Flip the shark T-shirt.
Yeah, somebody will make it. So one of the first questions we got was from Erica Drakowski.
Are you in a hurry?
No.
Oh, okay.
Why?
Well, you're diving right into there. I wanted to bring up one
there was quite a few questions. I don't want to, I know everyone kind of likes to hear about my normal chit-chat, but I figure people are going to take the time to give us questions they want answered. I don't want to rush through answering them.
Okay, let's go.
Give my due diligence. So I thought this was an interesting question. And her topic was on, well, I guess I probably shouldn't mention her name in case her coach listens to this. But her question was switching coaches, proper etiquette. Sometimes the coach is not as active as they used to be when they are handling too many clients. How do you bring up the topic, especially when you have a great friendship? When do you know it's time to make a switch? That's actually a really great question, and I would tell anybody this. I mean, and my athletes know this already. The coach athlete connection is just like any other relationship you have in your life. It is utterly based on one thing primarily, and that's communication. And it goes both ways. So I have been very, very fortunate enough that I haven't had to go through any kind of an athlete breakup in probably 3 years. So but I have been before that. But I would say, I think of athletes that I work with, and I would say it is all about communication. And that goes from on both ends, and especially the athlete's end. There's training and prescribing workouts and all this stuff, but ultimately, it should be, I think, like an endeavor that you're going on a journey with someone. And if you feel like you're going on that journey alone, and that person is basically, like, for instance, the coach is just basically giving you the map, saying, hey, here's the map, this is the route I suggest you take to get to this destination, let me know when you get there. That's probably not the best relationship you're looking for if you want a lot of communication and so on. You want somebody to kind of guide you through the way, but ultimately, I would address it first and foremost by bringing that kind of situation to the coach, especially if you have a coach. She used the phrase, especially when you have a great friendship. If you have a coach, it should be a great friendship. I mean, they're not mutually exclusive. In my opinion, I mean, that's how I like to coach. Some of my athletes take advantage of it. Most of them do.
Don't tell that to the Russian gymnasts.
Yeah, God, I know, right? But that is. I mean, it should be a great friendship. I mean, I talk to my athletes. I mean, 95% of the time, it's actually non-training related. It's more about life, which affects training more than anything else. So, I think it's an interesting topic. There's probably no wrong way, but I would definitely say communicate with your coach. And I think as far as like when do you know it's time to make the switch, it shouldn't be ever like, getting your best bang for your buck. It should feel like if you feel like you're not getting the value for whatever that is and whatever you want to base that on, and that you're just losing the connection that you once had, then it's probably time to break things off.
Yeah, and I can say, having you as my coach, it is about friendship, but that doesn't mean that you're not tough on me, you know what I mean? As you were with the 10-to-1 odds, for example. But seriously, you push me, and it's just kind of that. It's in a way, it's like the best of friendship because you can be honest and let me hear what needs to be heard and things like that. So
yeah, but I mean, the majority of, and this is how it is with all my athletes, the majority of the time it's about restraining the athlete and talking to them. It's not about you coach the person, you train the athlete. That's the biggest difference in a lot of coaches. So if you have somebody who, a couple of my biggest pet peeves are if you have a coach who's not willing to change your plan on the fly, who only allows you to talk to them once a week and all this other kind of garbage. I just think it's ridiculous. I think if you're coaching and you're coaching even full time, or even if you want to call yourself a coach, I don't think you should be restricting communication when communication is the ultimate kind of difference between success and not success. It is all communication. So when you start to limit the amount of communication you can have with an athlete, then your chance of success goes down. And that's actually why if you kind of look at how a lot of coaches price things, that they get the unlimited communication is always the most expensive, because they know how important communication is, and they know how much athletes want to communicate. That's why they make it on the upper tier. I'm a little bit different. I'm probably about as I don't like to say the word cheap because I feel like it devalues what I offer. I'm probably one of the most affordable triathlon and coaches you're probably ever going to find. I mean, my rates are incredibly affordable, but it's all unlimited communication too, because I feel like that's the only way to really breed a process and a culture of success with every athlete that you coach, and it's through communication. Well, and to be honest, I mean, I want to have that communication. It's about the relationship as well, and so I don't want to limit that either.
Yeah, I mean, in this world, it's different, I'm sure, in a lot of, professional triathlete worlds, but in this world where you're not standing on the edge of the pool on every workout and, riding along with them and running with them and that's probably a pretty rare relationship. So there has to be huge communication, right?
Yeah. There should be.
How else would you even know? You know what I mean? They got to be able to communicate with you and let you know what's going on, or else you can't, make the adjustments or help motivate them or, hit the right buttons.
Yeah.
Unless exactly what's going on with them in their mind and body.
Yep, you can never really be sure what to say or what not to say unless you have your thumb and your finger on the pulse of the athlete and how their life has been going, how it continues to go, and because you're the one that needs to be telling them to take the day off. And if you don't talk to them enough, they're just going to kind of go. They're going to be kind of left to their own devices, and usually that is overtraining. So that's why communication is so important.
Mm-hmm. You want to move on to the next question?
Yeah, next topic, I believe, was from our buddy Shane, who did St. George today.
Oh.
I'm not going to look up his results and post them online, but I probably will later. But he asked a great question. I thought he asked, let me pull it up.
He's preparing right now. I think I have it here if you want me to read it.
No, he's not preparing right now. He did St. George today.
No, I mean, he's preparing for his question is preparing for after St. George.
Oh, right. Yeah. It said tips to overcome race blues regardless of the outcome, how to recognize, how to avoid, how to leverage coach or other supports. Man, that's a good one. And a tough one. I think the overcoming post-race blues starts before the race.
Yeah.
It is absolutely out of your control and almost a impossible feat of addressing it after the race because it's too late. It's your best opportunity is to focus on it before the race, where it's appreciating the journey, being objective, understanding that this is a hobby and that we don't get paid for this. We actually pay a lot of money, usually with commas in it, every year to do these, and we invest hundreds of hours to do something that we love, and we do it to push ourselves, and that's nothing. Honestly, that's not something that we should ever be blue about. The majority of this country is sedentary and doesn't have these kind of goals and doesn't have this kind of drive and doesn't have this kind of motivation, and they should. And so to have that and to put yourself out there, because doing races, any kind of a race, no matter what sport it is or what kind of athletic endeavor, you are putting yourself out there to be vulnerable for X amount of time for the whole world really to see, or whoever's watching, and it's all the people that care. So it's a lot of pressure, but you shouldn't come to it with adding more by putting these outlandish expectations. It should always kind of start with appreciation, and I think that obviously always helps with the reflection afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's exactly the right thing. Also, I mean, I'm kind of kidding here, but just after the race, if you didn't have the race that you hoped you were going to have, in the, tent or whatever, try and hang around people that went slower than you. It makes you feel a lot better.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I just remember, it was last year, it was Chattanooga Waterfront that I had just a terrible race. It was probably one of my worst Olympics for sure. And I started with this guy who I knew I was faster than, but he rocked me that day. And I found him afterwards in the tent and everything. And I think he might have podiumed and or close to it. And I was hanging around him, and it just felt weird, It's like I felt like when you're around the people hanging around the podium and those fast people and stuff like that, it kind of brings you down a little bit, especially if you're expecting to do, if you have higher expectations. But also on a serious note, I think it is good to if you can go into a race, like we'll have a lot of friends around for Chattanooga 70.3. It's always good to hang around good friends afterwards instead of end a race and sort of be in no man's land and kind of staggering around trying to talk to somebody. But it's good to kind of be able to just be yourself and air your grievances.
Whatever it takes to get out of your own head.
Yeah.
I mean, and like that's why don't go hop in the car and drive solo for 7 hours.
Like we know somebody does.
Yeah, like we know somebody that does. The next question, which is every athlete's like main question and anxiety boosting fear when it gets close to like taper time, and this one was question was, at what point prior to a race are you just not going to get any stronger faster, and when is the point of diminishing returns?
Good question.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but there is not one specific answer that relates perfectly to every individual. It is all based on the athlete, how their previous months and weeks have looked, what race they're doing. To condense it down to somewhat of an answerable question, I guess, is there's about, when you're in terms of where you kind of hit a peak weekend and then a taper, when you think stronger, faster, you kind of need to reframe that into fresher and fitter, because if you continue to work out, you're going to get closer to a race. You're going to get stronger and faster, but you're not going to be recovered enough to perform to the levels of the investment you just made. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the point of racing is to have your tank totally full and now be able to use it, versus continuing to try to fill it up and fill it up and fill it up, and the dam you're about to open isn't going to be big enough because you're too sore, you've had too much you're too fatigued, you've overtrained. So, I mean, usually there's like a 10 to 14 day window I usually take with athletes, whether it's a 70.3 or a full, where you're going to have big weekends. Then it's kind of about sharpening, and then it's kind of about, all right, now let's just get ready for it to roll. You're not going to get faster, quote unquote, or stronger, quote unquote, the week of the race. But in order to perform at your peak and your strongest and your fastest, you have to be fresh. And then ultimately, as most people probably already know, like racing is a great physiological stimulus to get faster. So as long as you recover from that, you're going to get faster on the flip side. So, there is no like point on this arc of training where if you stop here, you're going to lose X amount of fitness before race day. It's not about that. It's about getting fresh, getting fit, getting sharp, so you can perform to your actual capabilities the day of the race.
Mm-hmm. And if I may piggyback on this, back to in this question and back to the last question, I think what I found last year is when I got done with a 70.3 and I had a full Ironman coming up in about 6 or 7 weeks, it was really helpful to me to get right back in it and have another target out there. And I think that's a quick turnaround in a way, but for Shane, I think if you put another sort of target out there and kind of just keep it going, because if you let that race finish and then you just kind of just put the bike away and forget about the pool, and you're going to be a little sore to run or whatever, my advice is just to kind of get back in it and keep it going, because it's real easy to get depressed if you spend 2 weeks sitting around after a race and doing nothing.
Yep, totally agree.
And, I don't know when your next race you'd want to schedule is, but, it's early now. He's got this one today. I'm not saying he should go right after it again, but, there might be something to set up like an Olympic or a sprint, anything, just to keep the momentum, because I think that's at the core of what a lot of us even do this for, is for the, what are those called? Not the dopamine, but the
your adrenaline.
Yeah, well, adrenaline, but it's it's like
endorphins.
Endorphins, yeah. And that's the whole thing with blues, right? It's like you got to get those endorphins going. So keep.
Well, yeah, and you've reached the culmination of such a long journey that you haven't thought about what's after that. You haven't thought about the what's next. Hopefully, maybe most triathletes sign up for their second Ironman before they even do their first one. But yeah, Mike.
Yeah.
But no, it's there is a simple formula to getting better, and we like to overcomplicate it to all hell. It is stress your body, allow it to adapt, rest, and repeat. That's it. And you can't take one out and insert more training or more adaptation without taking into context the other part of it. They all work together. So you have to rest in order to perform at your highest capability, and that's the biggest fear that most triathletes have, is when they hit the taper. Which is very, very common. But and a lot of people, I'll just touch this quickly, and there wasn't questions. A lot of people and a lot of my athletes are about to hit taper time. The reason that you feel so kind of sluggish sometimes during taper, or kind of these like niggles around your body, is because your body is actually starting to regenerate, recuperate, and fully recover. So it is in full-on repair mode. And that's why you feel so sluggish, or you might feel like a niggle you haven't felt in like 6 months. You're like, oh man, I'm going in with the hurt. You're not hurt. You don't have any pain. They're phantom. They're phantom pains, and it's your body actually working hard with all this extra time and energy that you're not using out doing these long rides, runs, or swims. And that's why you feel sluggish, because your body's actually recuperating and getting ready to perform at its highest level.
That's good, Next man. Question. Yeah. You want me to read it? You got it. Go ahead.
You sound like you were struggling, Rose. So I'm trying to carry this one for us.
Well, all those like videos of those bikes getting run off the road and had me in a bad mood.
Yeah. Well,
sorry.
Dudes in tank tops and trucks.
Bikes are American like apple pie, man.
Yeah, they used to be, at least.
Yeah.
Now the Segway is the apple pie of America. Somebody asked strength training. Man.
No, I just had a thought. Because like on the bike, right? Sometimes it's easy because people either kind of push you off the road, or like today they were annoying me or whatever. But you know what the thought is for me? Always just like,
oh boy.
No, it just feels weird getting like. There's just no way to seem like a badass when you're wearing spandex shorts and bike shoes. That's the thing.
Yeah, why are you trying to argue with somebody in spandex with a weird looking helmet?
I know. That's what makes me so mad, I think.
With butt butter on, and if they tried to run after you, you would fall in 2 feet because you have cycling shoes on. The cards are stacked against you, okay? Avoid at all costs. Run and hide, and just get out of there. If you have to turn around and go the opposite way, go. But you aren't going to outrun anybody, and you're not gonna scare anybody. In your spandex, you can throw out some like cliff shot blocks and start pelting them, but I'm not sure you're gonna fend them off with your M.Dot water bottle either. So good luck to you. Good luck to all you cyclists out there.
Spray them in the eyes.
With some really take this scratch lab and take them right to the face. All right, next question. A strength training, when and how much is okay? Again, total, very, very broad question. Just some general guidelines. I usually love to have my athletes strength train 2 to 3 times a week in what I would call the off season, which is like not your primary focus of speed with racing, and 2 to 3 times a week, is doing some strength training, maybe 2, maybe 3. This is also very dependent on the athlete and their injury history, and also their age. The older an athlete becomes, the more important weight training is, because you think about muscles deteriorating and also bone density, which is, stress fractures and stuff like that are one of the biggest or the most common injuries for triathletes from overuse. And as you get older, there's a good way to kind of meet in the middle of not having to train so much, but maintaining the muscles that you've spent these years developing, and now you're just trying to keep getting them faster, because you can get faster as you get older. It's not like I've reached my peak and whatever. Like, dude, I'm 30 going on 37, I'm not even close to my peak yet, so I ain't going anywhere. So 2 to 3 times a week, and then once the season starts, most coaches, and I'll do this sometimes with specific athletes based on kind of their athlete profile, is move into more of like a once a week maintenance mode. And then it may even not be quote unquote strength training. Like if I say strength training, you're thinking barbells, dumbbells, whatever weights. This may just be full body stuff. It may be like lunges and air squats, all things you can do without weights. It may be more injury prevention and stuff like that, that you'll focus on throughout the year instead of doing a lot of load bearing exercising. Because if you're or an extra, just your weight training, because the longer you get in the year, the longer you get throughout the year, your volume and intensity usually goes up. So your body's already going to be kind of put under the knife as far as the maximum amount of stress it can be under. So when you have to put strength training in that already complex bucket of swim, bike, run, adding a fourth sport that can wreak so much havoc on your muscles is, I wouldn't say it's risky, but you reach that point of diminishing returns of, is this hurting? Like, is my weight training today actually going to hurt my cycling performance the next day? Mm-hmm. So I would, I use this phrase with you all the time, then use it on the podcast, is I would use strength training or weight training, whatever you want to call it, in what I would call the chassis phase. If you're starting your year in January, February, March, maybe even April, you're still strength training. You're still building that chassis. You're still building that foundation. And then don't peel it all away. Just insert it for maintenance to keep going forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that if you're going to be lifting weights, you should probably be used to it, and like you're saying, start early, start off season, start in the chassis phase. And I mean, like, I still don't quite understand. I do a lot of as you know, I'll do a lot of push-ups and lunges and sort of like yogas and planks and things like that. But that to me is my strength training. But I still don't really quite understand like what the best. I would say, like, the people talk about doing these clean and jerks and things like that and these heavy things, and most endurance athletes like to think that it's good to do like 20 light reps, and I always hear that that's not necessarily the case. But I would imagine doing like heavy clean and jerks after a 3-hour ride would be a little devastating,
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I could go into a whole other podcast on this. I mean, we talked about it previously before, but the high rep, low weight kind of myth has actually been really debunked here as of late. And you don't need to clean and jerk. I would say deadlift, squats, and they don't have to be like super explosive movements, but if you do, back squats or front squats and deadlifts, it's a full functional movement. I mean, you're using your core, you're using your lower back, you're using your hamstrings, your quads, all the things you need to use to perform well in endurance sports. And they like to have you do explosive movements like that, and actually that's kind of been shown to yield some kind of an improvement. But like gymnastic style moves, as they would call them, that are really complex, you don't need to do. And I think it's most triathletes, unless you have a a lot of experience doing it, don't mess around with it, because you're just asking to get hurt. You always hear people, don't do this because you're going to get hurt. Don't do this. Listen, people get hurt with doing stuff all the time. They get hurt swimming, they get hurt cycling, they get hurt running. Nobody tells you those things aren't safe. It's just who taught you, and are you doing it right, and are you making sure you're not doing too much. I mean, as with anything in life, good instruction and moderation and leaving your ego outside will get you pretty far in life.
Good point.
Thank you.
Next question.
Same from the same lady. Practicing nutrition. I'm not really sure. I know who this is, so if you're listening, I'll be calling you. Practicing nutrition. I'm not sure this is much. It's more of a question. It's more of like, should you, or when should you, or how should you? And experiment all to hell in January to March. Mix and match. Figure out what works. Don't over drink and over do your like energy gels and carbs stuff early in the season, but play around with different things. I mean, there's so many products out there that it's insane. I mean, my wife even just sent me like a link because I bought that Tailwind today because I'm gonna start needing some extra nutrition on my long runs, and Lee was like, oh, well, some people like love it or they hate it, and I can always go back to my EFS because that does, I know that's what works well for me. That doesn't mean there's not something that can or will work better. So I'm willing to give Tailwind a try. And then my wife even sent me a link of something that she knows that her friends use that do ultras called Sword. And I never heard of it ever, like in my life, but people swear by it. And I think they're up to a point. A lot of these are generally the exact same thing. It's just a little bit less and a little bit more of this. So experiment. I mean, every single great product out there either offers free samples or single serve packets. But if you're going to experiment during this phase, take notes. What was my pre-workout meal? How hard did I ride? Don't try a new product on a day where you're going to do a really, really hard intensity workout and then give it a rating, and then the next day do some super chill easy workout and choose something different. Because unless it just you have some like ridiculously adverse reaction to this specific product, if you go super easy chill like zone 1, zone 2 long ride, you can probably stomach anything. You could probably stomach Coca-Cola and Snickers bars and baby back ribs. But if you are going high intensity, you're probably going to throw up. So use them out of the same. Try to do as much of a controlled environment as possible with effort, heat, temperature, everything, time of day. Just be diligent when you do that. And like I said before, don't do it so close to a race. Hopefully figure this out in the interim, before it actually really, really, really matters. But even if you found something that works, that doesn't mean it is the best thing for you. You just found something that works better than all the stuff you've tried before. So, like I said, I'm trying Tailwind. I'll let you guys know how it goes versus EFS that I've used for like the last 5 or 6 years, and see if I feel better, or I don't. And I can just go back to EFS. But never hurts to try. But be diligent in your note taking and your application, so you can actually get kind of a consistent, objective feedback based on facts and not just a specific circumstance.
I think it's good advice, man. I saw a guy once in Ironman Louisville in Arrow eating a roast beef sandwich.
Do whatever works. I mean, don't change it the day before. I mean, this is kind of going back to my earlier thing. The last time I was broken up with an athlete was 2012, and she decided to try UCAN for the first time ever during her race at Ironman Louisville, and she ended up having a terrible stomach issues on the run and actually got third in her age group, and she would have got a Kona slot had she not done that. But she, for whatever reason, blamed that on me. I still hold a little bit of resentment, not gonna lie.
Wow. It's surprising how many people will do something like that during a race.
It's
Get sucked in the expo.
Yeah, it's and like I talked about, I think in a comment I made to Shane, it was like, don't treat the expo like Halloween. You're not trick or treating. You're not picking up candy for everybody and putting it, in your bag and eating it, but everybody will do it. You're trying new stuff. It's like, hello, don't do that. It's not smart. It's just not. But yeah, practice your nutrition a long time before that or a long time after.
Mm-hmm.
Last question, Miles Davis. How to reduce/minimize feet and leg cramps on the swim? This is very tough to answer.
Mm-hmm. I was curious about your answer on this.
I don't really, I saw who liked this, and I've actually talked about this with Rebecca Gray Appleton.
I'm going to like that right now.
But let's see, Mike Turali. Generally, any kind of a cramp, it actually has zero to do with how many bananas you have that day. It's overexertion of the muscle, or you've kept it tight for too long. So a lot of people will have kind of feet and leg cramps when they swim, when they use a pull buoy sometimes.
That's when I get them.
Because you don't know it, because if you've done it a long time, but you're essentially squeezing and holding your legs in a certain position. It's the same thing if you would do, like if you did a wall sit for a certain amount of time. Like it's not load bearing, but you're tensing your muscles so much, and for such a long period of time, they're going to start to spasm, and that's your body's way of saying, "Hey, cut it out. I can't do this any longer." That's why if you do a lot of pull buoy stuff, like I always recommend, I do think it's perfectly fine, and it would probably behoove most people out there. If you're doing 2100s and the goal is to do them all with the pull buoy, do 3 with the pull buoy, 1 without. Because just that minute and a half to 2 minute break of moving the blood around, loosening back up the muscles, and then putting the pull buoy back in will pretty much keep you leg cramp free. I'm actually going to tell you that. I think it'll keep you leg cramp free.
Wow.
I'm not going to guarantee it, but I've never gotten them in my entire life in the pool.
Mm-hmm.
I've never gotten them, period. But I think just having that little bit of motion, it will definitely help it out. Now, when it comes to the feet cramp, I got nothing. I know a lot. I think a lot of people get it from the way they push off the wall. I'll tell you, just from a competitive swimmer standpoint, a guy who does flip turns, I do not push off the wall with any kind of force or vigor. I just don't. I mean, I used to, but I've actually had days where my feet were sore from pushing off these concrete walls with your bare feet over and over and over. So I'll just do my flip turn and slightly push off the wall. I don't need to do any more damage to my feet than I am already doing it, running or cycling or whatever it is. But that's a way that a lot of people will get cramps, is just that over pounding of your feet, your bare feet on concrete. And I mean, I think people forget about that when they swim, whether you're doing flip turns or just pushing off. I'm like, it's still concrete. I mean, you might have to move a little bit slower, and it might not feel as dense in the water, but I mean, it's the same reason like when you're little, or whatever, middle school, high school, and you play at the pool all day, and you get up and you realize that your feet are all tore up from the bottom. They're bleeding with scrapes or whatever, and their feet are sore from jumping around or playing in the pool all day. Same thing applies to swimming. I mean, it takes I've seen high level competitive swimmers get stress fractures in their feet. And if you want to take one guess on how it is, there's only one option. It's not from kick and butterfly. It's from what they call working the walls. For them, it's beneficial because it can be where you make or break a race. For triathletes, don't try to be Michael Phelps with your butterfly kick going off the wall. Just get on the wall, get off the wall, get back to the stuff that matters, which is your swim stroke.
Yeah. And what you said there about taking the 400, every 400 and kicking, when you're using a pull buoy. It's the same, I would imagine, one of the reasons you tell people to start kicking 200, 300 meters out in a Ironman or a half Ironman or whatever to get the blood flowing. So many people I got a cramp. That's probably why I got one at Lake Logan when I got out of the water.
Yeah, I mean,
you get in that wetsuit, you get so used to not kicking because you can it's sort of that simulated pull buoy effect, and the next thing you know, you're getting to the edge of the swim and you can stand up, and then you do like a quick movement to push yourself out of the water like I did. We had to jump onto a pier, and the minute I jumped up I just cramped up.
Yeah, I mean the only times I've ever almost had any kind of a cramp, I mean I would generally think that most people who are asking get calf cramps, that's what kind of their general one is when I've done like a long I think I could feel it kind of coming up in Wisconsin, because the way that I swim and the way I really recommend most people is like not using their legs almost at all. So you get all your blood, everything you got is going to your upper torso, arms, chest, everything. Not much blood flow, yet you're keeping your legs somewhat tense, and then a wetsuit in general just kind of sucks it all into place, and you just literally don't move it for a certain amount of time. And after a time, your body's like, okay, I need this thing to move, and I need it to get blood, I need it to get oxygen, so get moving. And so I'll start to kick. But yeah, generally, I mean, this is a great way to end it, is I do always have, no matter how long the race is, sprint, Olympic, half, full, whatever, if you're doing a sprint, you're probably kicking the whole way anyway just to get a little extra ump, is those last 150 to 200, 300 meters, pick up the kick. Because if you don't want your run, your transition from swim to bike to be even close to as painful, go ahead and get some of that blood distributed to the lower part of your body. So when you come out of the water, it's a little more even throughout versus coming up and now you're trying to run on legs with no blood. I mean, you're going to have blood in it obviously, but you get the gist of it, is that you kind of want to spread that out and kind of wake. It's like, hey, let's wake them back up. It's the same application and reason that you hear a lot of coaches say that last, I don't know, mile to 2 miles of your ride, especially in like an Ironman or a 70.3, is to maybe drop down to an easier gear and spin up a little bit, because your natural run cadence is so much higher than your cycling cadence that if you can wake it up just a little bit on the bike and kind of flush it out, especially if you're a lower cadence guy like I am, and kind of wake up your legs like, okay, hey buddy, we're about to run, and you can do it on the bike versus hopping off the bike after 112 miles, smashing big gears and running like a baby deer just out of the womb. It'll definitely help you out.
And then you just have to really focus on reeling it in too.
Exactly. Yep.
So, but you'll feel better.
Yeah, you'll feel better.
Anything else, buddy?
That's it, man. I feel like that was a solid cast.
Yeah,
great questions, by the way. I appreciate everybody taking the time to put those out there, and hope it did a good enough job answering them. If not, you can always email me at c26coach@gmail.com. And I do want to say quickly, I picked up a new athlete this week, Stuart, and I'd mentioned this Stuart Rogers, and I mentioned this on a post in the closed group, is that if you're out there and you need any kind of assistance with a training plan or coaching advice, or a 12 or 16 week plan, or generally even just kind of online coaching, I am, as I will quote Stuart, I am incredibly affordable. He was, I think, actually like stunned of how affordable I was. So if you're thinking, oh, this coach has a podcast, he must be charging people out of the yin yang, I don't. I do it because I love it. I have a job that is where I earn a living. I do this. Yeah, Hayden's in the background giving me a voice of approval. I do it because I love it. Because I love it, and the sport is expensive enough. So my way of keeping the rates down as low as I possibly can is my way of kind of doing what I can to help every athlete, regardless of their financial situation, reach their potential and feel like they have all the questions answered.
Okay. Am I hearing you saying that you're opening up coaching slots again?
Yeah, since we've moved and things have changed for me drastically, I am wide open.
Oh, excellent. Yep. Excellent news.
Wide open.
I just thought I would mention this too, because we've actually had several of you email and request us to start a Patreon page, and I guess we're gonna, put one out there.
We're about to.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm working on putting that together, and we're doing 2 podcasts a week, and it's taken a lot of time, but we love it. I mean, it's something we're going to keep doing regardless, but it does help, kind of like, especially now that Robbie's back here in town, and we plan on doing a lot more with some videos, instructional stuff, and there's a lot of stuff we want to do, but it's kind of realistic to know that we're both doing jobs and trying to make this thing work. We'd love to be able to do this full time, so we're just going to start the ball rolling and see how it goes, and we would appreciate anybody that can kind of chip in a couple bucks or whatever a month, and it helps. So.
Yeah, I mean, we'll start working on video content, and then we've already got some ebooks we've been working on. Any support would be great. We love. I mean, this is one of my favorite parts of the week, so would love to continue to do it. And if we can do it on a broader scale and help more people, then even better.
Yes, I agree, and it's gotten me back in a better mood. Thanks a lot.
Hey,
appreciate
my
that.
pleasure.
It's come around 180. I am ready to go for a run.
Do it, man. I'm going to go to the corner pub and have a burger.
Okay. One more question.
Yeah, man.
For you, if you may indulge. How's CC's training going?
He had a pretty solid ride today.
Oof. Okay, that's all. I don't expect any details.
Yeah, he even used a caveat at the end to kind of poo-poo it. But it was pretty cool today. Perfect conditions.
Oh.
You know what that's like when you like do really, really good and you're like, oh, but it was like, cool and no wind and perfect conditions. You know how that goes.
Yeah, I've had a couple of those lately myself. Okay, join our closed Facebook group, Crushing Iron Group.
Yeah,
search it. We've got.
Yep.
It's a pretty small
iTunes
group right now, but it's
too.
great.
Yeah, iTunes reviews. We could always use more of those. Either leave a comment with your whatever 1 to 5 stars, or just leave the stars if it's easier. But those always help us to leave your review. And thanks for everyone who's already left one.
Yeah. Okay, Coach.
All right, man. I'll check you later.
All right. Have a good drive tomorrow.
Thanks, man.
Okay. Bye-bye.
You do.